it's Anthony with Land Title. I wanted to bring your Boulder County market update for the month of April. And big thing going on here in April is inventory is staying remarkably low. We are showing so much more buyer demand than anyone would have expected right now. It's actually absorbing a lot of the inventory. Even though we knew we would have a slowdown in new listings coming, we actually are putting enough under contract that it looks really good, right? Active units have slowed down a little bit, but look at that under contract line. That blue line right there, steadily increasing, is a good sign for Boulder County. So there may be a few bad numbers here, like, year over year under contracts are down by 14%, or our total sold numbers are down year to date by 22%. But honestly, I feel like we're in a position where we're going to start seeing that gap start to slow. And that being said, we're actually in a phase where maybe real estate can start to pick up over the next couple of quarters. So I really like to see those numbers. The other thing I think is super important to talk about with this is all markets are not created equal, right? We talk about this a lot with active inventory, but I think the big thing to remember here is even though certain markets have changed dramatically, think about places like, Niwot showing 275% increase, which is 15 units. But in all reality, places like Lafayette are up 140% to 63 units. You have Erie up to 106 units. I can't tell you the last time that we've seen a number that big. There's been so many listings in Erie, and things are actually selling, but some markets have active units coming like crazy. And then you have places like the city of Boulder, which is the exact opposite. When you're talking about resilient markets or places where if people don't like the price, they can weather the storm, they just don't sell. Well, there has only been a trailing 12-month number of a 23% increase in active listings in the city of Boulder. Things have just slowed down in Boulder. The absorption rate is taking care of a lot of the active units, but we're just sitting pretty in the city, right? Go to places like Longmont, and it's a whole different situation, right? Month over month, we actually had a drop in active units. People aren't listing as much, but buyers are actually putting things under contract. So lots of different paced markets. Now, as the market changes, right, everything's trending the same direction, but they're going to do it at different rates. So I think that's one of the biggest takeaways in the active units right now. The one thing you need to remember is month supply of inventory is very important to understand where in the seller's market are we, right? It's still a seller's market. It was a seller's market last year. It was a seller's market the year before that. It was a seller's market the year before that. But the problem is there's different levels to this, and that creates those bidding wars, which we saw. So what we are here at 2 months of inventory is actually double the inventory of the Denver markets right now at 1 month of inventory. They're where we were a year ago. So when you hear about bidding wars taking place in places like Arvada or downtown Denver or Park Hill, right? That's very possible that they might be experiencing a different part of the market than us, because when we have 2.3 months of inventory in the city of Boulder, 1.9 months of inventory in Lafayette, that's a little bit of a different scenario. Certain neighborhoods are going to do well. Other neighborhoods, we're going to have stuff sitting on the market a little bit longer. When we say sitting on the market, it's about reframing that reference to some of those pre-pandemic expectations, because we're not in the frenzy of the market anymore. We're in a strong seller's market. It's going to sell, but when is it going to sell? You look at days in MLS. We show on average we're at 34 days in MLS. I would say that's great, because pre-pandemic, that's where we were sitting. Look at 2020. We had a plateau because of the increase in demand around 30 days, right? 30 days active to under contract time on average. That means the buttoned up ready to market homes are going in 10 days or so, but there's stuff lingering on the market, and that's a healthy pace for the market, right? Now, not all markets are created equal. Look at Erie, look at Superior, 45 plus days, they're slowing down. And then you have other markets like Lafayette or Louisville where 27, 26 days in MLS on average, and they're much faster. Now, is this anywhere near last year? No. So as a buyer, get out and be active and take advantage of this while there's not as many buyers out there in the marketplace. But as a seller, this is a really important time to remember. It's a spring market still. In a seller's market, you can go out and still get top dollar for your home. It may not be like it was last year. It may actually be worth a little bit less than it was last year, which you can see in some of these slides. But take a look at this. The composition of sales has changed so dramatically. This is one I really like you guys to use with your buyers and sellers, because in their price band, certain things are happening that aren't happening otherwise, right? If you're shopping at 3+ million, it's a really vibrant, active market, but there's a lot of inventory, right? More sales have taken place this year than any year in the past up to this point, right? 32 year-to-date sales at 3+ million. The luxury high-end market is doing remarkably well. But then you have 1 to 3 million suffering so bad from the cost of money, that's slowing down so much. So our composition of sales have dramatically changed. Then you go under a million and they're struggling as well, but it's very tied to money. Different type of struggling, right? Look at 800 to a million rolling down 17% in sales, a little bit more or a little bit less than what the market average is. But then you look at somewhere at like 4 to 499, 4 to 499 can't keep up with buyer demand, right? And you can see that over here. When we move to the month supply of inventory by days on market, we have a month of inventory. They're going under contract in 20 days. It's a lightning fast market at 4 to 499. So that being said, each market is not created equal. The one thing on this slide that's really, really notable is 2 to 3 million has had a huge, huge increase in inventory. So that being said, watch those luxury price points. There might be some really awesome trade-up opportunities here if the cost of money isn't prohibitive, right? So if you know people that would pay cash going from 1.5 million to 2.5 million, that might be a really good time to have that conversation because you know you can get it sold in Boulder at 1.5 million, but there's $2.5 million properties kind of sitting on the market, and there's a lot of them to choose from, so they can really go out and look and find what they want. But if you get under that 1.5 mark, you got 2 months of inventory and things are flying off the shelf. So definitely know your markets and your sub-markets. Use this data to help have those conversations and change those expectations, right? Because it's not selling in the pandemic or selling last year, right? It's also not buying last year. So things are moving a little bit slower, but we also still have to be aggressive with our buyers, right? So we're kind of having the tail of a few markets here. This is the sold analysis. You can see sales by city over the last year to date or whatever. It's really worth noting. So look at our year to date percentage changes. Louisville is basically flat in sales. It's a really desirable market. People have really started moving in there because of price points and everything else. Plus, it's recovered from the Marshall Fire stuff so much that you're finally starting to see that appetite in the marketplace going back there. The city of Boulder is only down 12.5% in sales, right? I say only because look at places like Lafayette or Superior where they're down 36, 37%. Some markets are slowing. They're all slowing, but some of them are slowing much faster than others, and I think that's very notable. Longmont is doing really well, right? I would say that Longmont is a strong market because with the cost of money, people are moving to places that are a little more affordable, and you can really see that in the Longmont numbers. Now, everything's going to slow down because it was an unsustainable rate in which we were selling over the last few years. So that being said, I'll definitely keep you posted as we go into Q3 and Q4, but I think we could have a really good end to the year. All right, average sales price, you got to have a long-term average sales price conversation. You can see from March through about December, prices were falling a little bit, right? And that's okay, but it was that shift in the interest rate, people reacclimating. Now we've been on this really good trajectory. January, February, March, April, we've been on a good upward trend. So when we're showing a year-over-year decrease of about $30,000 or 3%, that's only really gauging that off of last April. And last April was the peak of the market. So only those people who bought at the peak of the market are slightly underwater, where everybody else in the market over the last trailing 12 months has actually seen a 6% increase in average sales price. So it's worth having that conversation a little bit more in depth to remind your people that real estate is a great investment. They've made a good choice buying, right? So that way they can understand that the sky isn't falling, and the data is finally here to support that, to show that. Let's skip this one because we kind of talked about it already, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the listed sale price. I think the one thing you can remember in the listed sales price is we're coming back to a more traditional seasonal market, right? We're out of the frenzy. We do still have some bidding wars taking place. 400 to 800,000 in the detached market is seeing bidding wars. In the attached market, it's actually more than that. There's, quite a bit of the lower market is having bigger bidding wars, but it's more reasonable, right? You might be paying 1, 2, 3% over asking price instead of 10%. And when you get into some of the higher end markets, you're looking at 3+ million, it feels much more like a balanced market. 96% with the sale price, that's a good sign. So there's a lot of changes here taking place. We're in a spring market. It feels like a spring market, but it feels like a traditional spring market, right? No crazy frenzies like the last couple of years. So if you have questions or you need sub-market data, reach out to me. I'm Anthony at Land Title. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you in the next video.